Are you totally different when it comes to sex and copulation? Have you judged yourself out of receiving pleasure? Have you judged yourself into receiving pleasure in certain ways and excluded other ways? Would you like to know more about what else is possible with bodies? Would you like to create confidence in the bedroom and beyond? How has your sex life or lack of it affected other areas of your life? Everyone has the potency to be a sexual superhero. Get ready to listen, sense, and play with the sexualness that is you. Now, here's the host of The Pleasure Zone, pleasure diva and body whisperer, Milica Jelenic.
Welcome, all you crazy, awesome, beautiful people out there in Radio Land. Welcome to The Pleasure Zone. I'm your host, Milica Jelenic, and tonight we have a little kind of kinky show for you. So, warning, if there are children in the room, how lucky are they? They're going to get an education that they never dreamed of. And for parents, if you choose to not have your children have an education that you never could imagine or dreamed of, perhaps invite them to be preoccupied with other things. Although, children's curiosity can kind of drag them back into the room to go, what is she talking about? So, hey, cool. If this is your children's sex education, how fun is that? It's pretty much my daughter's sex education, so there you go. What is tonight's topic? Tonight's topic is three a company or a crowd? Which is inspired by a movie that I was watching where the threesome that showed up in the movie was like really awkward and hilarious. And I thought, oh my God, this is so like what happens. So I really was like, let's talk about this. Like, when you get in these awkward situations and you're like, oh my God, or if you're the third wheel or like really, to me, this is like any time where you're feeling left out and how you can include yourself. And one of the most, for me, one of the most blatant ways that would show up in sex is in a threesome or in an orgy, or you're like the only one standing there hiding behind a curtain and everybody else is doing it and you're like trying to hide and run away. Those are all ways that we exclude ourselves. So, well, now that we've got that out of the way, who am I and what am I doing talking about this stuff, right? Who is this crazy lady? So if you don't know who I am, cool, welcome. I work with bodies. It's one of my favorite things to do is to welcome bodies to have more freedom of expression, joy, and ease. And I do that through a number of different things. I do it through energy work. One of the modalities that I use is access consciousness. It has a lot of different, within that umbrella, there's a lot of different kinds of energy work, types of energy work, body processes. One is access bars, others. There are over 60 body processes in access consciousness, and they're all different energies that we work with in the body. And that's really fun. And one of the other things that I've been doing for many years, and this is my 20th anniversary of having my own business and working with the public doing energy work. I've been doing this my whole life, but really working with it in the public and getting paid for it for 20 years. The other thing is, essentially body magic, which is when I'm working with bodies in movement. And when I work with them in a way that's through movement. So I'm working to the skeletal system and out, which is very different than, say, massage that works from the muscles down deep into the body. It's really about finding, for me, it's about finding where the body has movement and where it doesn't have movement, and then coaxing and teasing it into having more flexibility, joy, and ease. So, if you like to be teased into more ease, I'm the girl to come to, because that's my favorite thing to create in bodies. And what else is possible? I know that every session is individual with me, so you never know what's going to show up, and you never know what, your results are going to be either, because really it comes down to what are you willing to receive. And then we go from there. So how's it get any better than that? And what are you willing to receive, is a really great question when it comes to threesomes. Because a lot of times there is, a lot of stuff that'll come up. For me personally, I've been invited to multiple threesomes in my life. And it's really something that whenever I've been invited to these threesomes, it's been kind of awkward. And at first, I think the first time I was very young, I was like in my early 20s, and it was one of these kind of situations where I was invited. So it was a friend of mine, and she was dating a fellow at the time. And the funny thing is, she didn't really like him. And she was trying to improve her relationship by inviting me into a threesome. And I kind of sat with it. I was like, well, she's really cute. Actually, she was like the first girl I ever kissed. So I was like, well, I've kissed you, so, that could be fun. She was also a bit of a firecracker, and I didn't really know where that was going to go. Like, she was like way out there and like, wow. So I was aware of energy. I was aware enough of energy at the time that kind of made me go, yeah, I'm not going to choose that. That doesn't really work for me. Needless to say, they broke up, and I thought it was funny. I was invited into that threesome as he chose me, out of all her friends, and I thought that was interesting that it was like I was supposed to be like honored or something that I was chosen to be in the threesome. And I was kind of like, well, thanks. And nothing about that person was kind to me. He my friend always talked about how totally unkind he was. So I was like, wow, that wasn't fun. And then the second time I got invited, and I've been invited in a first, yes, you have been chosen, da 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 da, welcome to the threesome of your life. Whether you like it or not, you've been chosen. Now you must say yes. No, you don't have to say yes, ever. Just because somebody chooses you doesn't mean you're obligated into it. So needless to say, I've been invited to many threesomes over the years, but one of the funniest ones was a friend of mine, and again, it was in my early 20s. It was like a lot of interesting stuff showed up for me in the 90s. It was good times. There was like raving going on. I was hanging out at clubs. I was a bit of a club girl. And I had this friend from high school who ironically always told me that I was like a sister. And so I was like, cool. He's kind of like a brother to me. And then, but I don't know, he never actually had a sister. So I get that for him, saying you're like a sister was kind of like him saying, I kind of am interested in you at the same time or something. And lucky for me, he would send me great things. He would send me, so back in the day when we didn't have, for all you kids listening, we didn't have cell phones back in the day. Back in the day, we had cameras. We had real cameras where we had to take pictures and get that film developed. And we'd be really lucky to get that film back in an hour because that was special Japan camera center editing. And we got that stuff back real fast. That was awesome to get your film back in an hour. This instant stuff didn't show up till like 1999 or 2000. I remember seeing my first digital camera and we were all floored by it. It was actually the year I turned 25, so it was 2000. It was like March of 2000. It was like a 1 megapixel camera, and we were all like, whoa, that's hardcore. And we were all like stunned and in awe, and it's hard to imagine that was 17 years ago. So needless to say, this friend of mine from university, actually he was from high school, but we were friends until after university, he sent me Polaroids, and that was pretty spectacular too, because there was a bit of time there where Polaroids weren't so cool and you couldn't really get them that easily. So the 80s Polaroids were cool. Then they kind of went out, and then they kind of came back in, like mini-sized ones came back in. Anyway, so I got Polaroids. I got Polaroids of the weirdest stuff from this fellow. Polaroids of his poo, Polaroids of his penis, Polaroids of him doing weird things like making art out of his penis. Like, I would get these in the mail, and you can imagine sometimes I'd be like, whoa, opening the envelope, like, oh my, what is that? So I realized that his comment of "you're like a sister" after I started getting the penis pics, which now that I'm saying this story, I realize, wow, I've been getting penis pics for a really long time. I've totally forgot that I got them back then. It's really funny. Yes, way before there was Facebook, I even got penis pics. It's amazing, actually, to think about that. That just was such a digression. And so here I was getting these pictures, and then I was like, okay, so I'm actually not like a sister. Then he starts dating somebody, and they invite me into a threesome, and I'm like, wow, this is so bizarre. I didn't find his girlfriend attractive to me. Like, she wasn't unattractive. She just didn't appeal to me. And then and I was like, wow. And so, I'd seen the penis in a Polaroid, which is different than when you see it in real life. Like, the scale of it, like there was no hand up against the penis or whatever. And I'm not sure why. One day it was the 90s, I guess. It was kind of like you could say it was the 60s. The 60s and the 90s were very similar, I think. It was one day we're like hanging out. It was like summertime. We'd all gone for a walk. And I was really into sketching at the time. And I was really into sketching all kinds of things. And I liked doing charcoal sketching. So my buddy, who was, always willing to get naked, he would just like get naked in front of crowds anyway. And I never really noticed that so much because it wasn't like looking at his crotch, being that I was like his sister and all. Well, he was like, sure, if you guys want to sketch me, go ahead. So his girlfriend and I were like, sure, we'll sketch you. He just strips right down and like bears it all. And there it is, like in my face. And I'm like, well, and this was around the same time. I think it was just like right after that I got invited to the threesome. So I'd seen the monument, and I have to say it was like a monument. I never had sex with that penis, but I saw it, and I'd had copulated with a very large penis after that. But to that point, that was by far the largest penis I had ever seen, and I think it is to date the largest penis I'd ever seen. And I hadn't slept with it, so just I wanted to clarify. So I was kind of like, whoa, I didn't know what to do with that. And so it was a bit awkward, and so I had to refuse. And I think they were trying to tempt me with the penis, like, hey, check this out. This is like, look at his goods. Check out his goods. You're going to choose this because you've seen the goods. And then I didn't. So what ended up showing up in that world was I haven't actually spoken to them in like 17 years. So that's 18 maybe. It was kind of sad and unfortunate, but somehow or other, this threesome, right after that, about choosing no to the threesomes, a bunch of stuff changed in our relationship after years of 6 years, 7 years of being friends. It all kind of changed. It got really weird, and then we were no longer friends. So the moral of that story is, as much as I know it was a totally entertaining story, is if you are going to choose somebody to have a threesome with, maybe think about, like, is this going to shift the relationship, the friendship? Is their friendship more valuable than having sex with them? Maybe ask some questions about what it'll create for the future, because, all in all, it may create more to not invite them into a threesome than it would to invite them into a threesome. And you got to consider, too, there's a few factors to consider. The feelings of the other person. As much as you think that this is going to be wonderful and fun and we're all a bunch of grown-ups, the thing is that there is this like feeling that some people will be left out, right? So in a threesome, if not everybody's like being included, there will be this feeling of exclusion. And exclusion is where a lot of stuff can come up, like jealousy and anger. Issues can be brought into people's faces unnecessarily. So, yeah, would choosing this actually expand your reality is a great question to ask when being presented with the option of a threesome. So how about if we talk more about threesomes and are they fun, are they awkward, are they inviting, when we come back from this commercial break.
Many of us have created a lot of limitations around sex and what we are willing to choose. What else is possible beyond what we have already seen, heard, or thought of? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual revolution? Taking the taboo out of all aspects of sex, sexuality, and copulation by tuning in to the Pleasure Zone radio show with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. You'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What if there's nothing wrong with you? What if you're far greater than you've ever given yourself credit for? What if it's time to know the gift and the contribution you are to the world and to like yourself a lot more? Hi, my name is Dane here. 13 years ago, I started to truly ask questions. Actually, I started to be the question, and everything changed for me. Asking questions opens doors to infinite possibilities. And it's not about finding the answer. It's about being the question. Always. What I'm inviting you to step into is something that Einstein, Marie Curie, Newton, Da Vinci, Gandhi, Picasso, and Aristotle all knew to be true. What if no question is too big or too small? What if anything is possible for you? What if together we could create a kinder, gentler, happier world? Is now the time? Go to beingyouclass.com and sign up for a free video series, My Gift to You. beingyouclass.com. What if you, truly being you, are the gift and change this world requires? beingyouclass.com.
This is the Pleasure Zone with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. Call 815-880-8255. That's TALK. Or Canada 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email at milicajelenic.com. Now back to the program.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pleasure Zone, and I'm your host, Milica Jelenic, and tonight we're talking about threesomes. Threesomes have a funny energy about them. Threesomes are like, have you ever sat down and had a conversation, I'm going to use an example from my own life. So I have these two friends who are really dear to me, and it's funny because they can have conversations together too when they're alone, like they can function alone. But when we're all three together, it turns into this really weird energy, like vying for each other's attention, like, oh, I need to get your attention more, blah, blah, and there's this weird exclusion that happens, and it's very awkward. Like, I've noticed most of my life that I've been kind of like the mediator in the middle of a threesome type energy. So I've been in between of my mother and father my whole life until maybe the last year, where they can actually speak to each other. But probably from the age of 3 till 41, they wouldn't. I would be the mediator, even if they were in the same room. They would speak through me to each other. And so that is very much like the excluding the third party. And there's this very awkward energy that comes out. And for whatever that is, I seem to either have a capacity mediating, or I seem to be very aware of when people get excluded and look at how can I include people, even though the others may be desperately trying to create exclusion. I'm like doing the exact opposite, desperately trying to create inclusion and inviting everybody into something. So it's a very interesting energy. And I wonder too, with a lot of, say a couple gets into a threesome, and a couple who has had, been together, say they've chosen to have a relationship, and then you invite somebody else into it. So for me, I've often felt like if I were to choose that, if I were, say my husband and I invited somebody into our relationship, I have a few things that are going on for me in the world, in my body and stuff. And under most times, if it's just me and my lover husband, I can be really present with him, and I will feel adored, and I will have all these sensations of being like loved, and like I can sense kindness and all this stuff. Now, if we invited somebody else into the relationship, I trust that I know me. I trust that if I were to see another woman's body that I thought was way more attractive than mine, I know me, and I know that my first inclination would be to want to run away and cry and hide and feel like I know me, and that I know that I'm still in a place where I'm not safe with. So what I'm aware of with me is that I would have to be able to sorry, everything's my brain was off track. So what I'm aware of with me is that I would likely have to, instead of having a threesome with my partner, knowing me, I would have to likely have a threesome with total strangers or people that I'm never going to see again. And that's a totally different situation. Then it's just like, just for me, just for fun. So for me, in order to include everybody and for me not to feel messed up in the head, it would have to be with somebody other than my husband. So I'm aware of that, and I can trust that about me. I can trust that if I saw my husband having sex with another woman, or likely if he saw me having sex with another man, it would create something very strange in our relationship. I'm aware of that. So if it is somebody that you're very intimate with, and they're saying, yeah, no, we're fine, really check in with what you know about you, and check in and trust what you know about the other person. If you're with a person who has a tendency to be jealous, like I'm normally not a jealous person, and I know that jealousy would come up if I saw my husband having sex with a woman who has a body that I find attractive, or has a body that would be like mine. I don't know. There's certain things for me in my brain that would equal jealousy. I get that. There's other ways I would be like, I wouldn't be jealous if she had like way bigger boobs than me, because I was like, well, I get that because her body's totally different than mine. And so there's just certain things I can trust about me. So know what you can trust about you. If you trust that, you wouldn't be able to look at your partner the next day, and yet you're choosing this relationship, and this relationship is really something that you'd like to have in the future, then don't choose the threesome, because I'm telling you that it's going to fuck things up. So I'm telling you, you can use your awareness on it and ask questions. And if you really are not bright enough to ask the questions, just don't choose it. Because the chances are you're not aware enough, you're not choosing to be aware enough to come from a place of awareness when you're going to take on this action. So if you are aware enough and you already are asking questions, then you will totally know if you can trust what you know about you, if you can trust that you would be jealous under certain circumstances, or certain energies would come up and your issues would be in your face that you are not really looking to have in your face at that time. Maybe at another time it's different, right? So you got to really know, right? And it's a great question too, is how much do we go into their universes? Absolutely. So you could be in a threesome too and be going into third-party universe or your partner's universe or both of their universes, and the awkwardness that's going on for them or whatever's going on for them, or if they're having the same thing too, if they're like, oh my God, well, she just, gave him a better blowjob than I did, and then you start judging yourself and you're like, looking at their technique going, oh my God, their technique's better than my technique. They like their stuff better than they like my stuff. And if it was my husband and I'm watching somebody give him a blowjob and he likes it better than he likes mine, I would be devastated. I know that about me. I would be totally devastated. I'd rather not know. Honestly, rather not know. I'd rather have him say to me, your blowjobs are great, and if he's getting them from somebody else too, just never tell me about it. I don't need to know. I don't need that heartbreak and heartache. I like to think that, and is that hiding from me? No, because I'm actually aware of my relationship with my husband. I'm willing to be aware of everything good, bad, and ugly in it. So if he was choosing that, I would be aware of it, and I would also be aware of whether that's a conversation I'd want to have or not. So, if you are kind of going, oh my God, I think my partner, blah, 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 just know what you know about them and about you, because you'll know if your body is if you'll know about your body, being willing to receive from more than one body at a time, and you'll know whether you are in a mentally capable place of receiving it. Like you might have all this stuff going on in your head where you just can't get through it, and it's just like a massive fog of poo, and you can't get through it. And it's like, cool, just know it's a massive fog of poo. You can't get through it right now. That's okay. Choose something different, right? So you don't have to force yourself into situations to so-called get over it. That's not necessarily going to get you over it. It might actually throw you into a beyond. It might actually throw you into a place where you're feeling like overburdened by your stuff. I just like too much stuff in my brain. And yes, if you are a person who compares, if you're a person who compares your body to other bodies, I actually don't know many people who don't do that. Especially my women friends do that a lot. Even the super conscious ones, and they have, they check in on it and they're like, okay, wait a second, it's not mine. Okay, But thing is, it comes up, right? So if we're, in a room of naked bodies, the chances are there's going to be a lot more and different judgments that come up than if you're, say, in a room of closed bodies. Even though there's still going to be a lot of judgments coming up in a room of closed bodies, there's something about nudity that brings people's issues into their face even more. So you really have to be willing to be totally vulnerable to be able to receive in a threesome. And all parties involved really require being completely vulnerable, so that in a flash moment, if it doesn't work for you, you can literally say, okay, cool, thanks so much. It's not working for me right now and I got to get out of here. You've got to trust you and know what works for you, because there will be moments where you could be you could be in the middle of it and then you feel completely excluded, and maybe the people aren't willing to include you and you're like, what's the point? What am I even here for? I'm out of here. Which was partly what I was getting from the movie that I was watching, and this girl was completely being excluded from a threesome, and she was like fighting her way to try and be included in it, and it was such to me like the story of what shows up for people in these third wheel, threesome kind of things. So it's really, really such an interesting energy that comes in when we have more than one body and we're creating intimacy. So how do we create intimacy with more than one person? A lot of us have the point of view that intimacy is between two people. And what if we can have intimacy not with just only between two people? What if we can have intimacy with hundreds, thousands? And And literally, what if this conversation about threesomes, and including even just one more person in our lives, and it doesn't have to mean sexually, what if we're including one more person in all aspects of our lives energetically? What will that create for us, for our businesses, for our money inflows, for our lives? We're looking for these one-on-one relationships, and what if intimacy is actually where we have all our barriers down and we're willing to receive from everyone? So let's look more at how we can include ourselves into threesomes and beyond that after we come back from these commercial breaks.
Many of us have created a lot of limitations around sex and what we are willing to choose. What else is possible beyond what we have already seen, heard, or thought of? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual revolution, taking the taboo out of all aspects of sex, sexuality, and copulation by tuning in to the Pleasure Zone radio show with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. You'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What would you say if I told you that you could change your life in only 1 hour and all while lying down relaxing? Thousands of people all over the world have. What am I talking about? It's called Access Consciousness, the bars. The bars is an energetic body process that contains 32 different points on your head that when run assist you in releasing decisions about any area of your life that you have made solid and as a result cannot change. The bars is the first class in Access Consciousness, a dynamic set of tools and information designed to transform any area of your life. When you have a bars session, the worst that can happen is you feel like you had a fantastic massage. The best thing that can happen is your whole life could change. Go to accessconsciousness.com today to find a facilitator to schedule a private session or to find a bars class in your area. Are you willing to give yourself an hour to change your life?
This is the Pleasure Zone with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. Call 815-880-8255. That's TALK. Or Canada 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email at milicajelenic.com. Now back to the program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pleasure Zone. I'm your host, Milica Jelenic. For those of you looking for me in the world, if you find my shows interesting, if you'd like to have facilitation with me or sessions with me, you can find me on the internet. You can find me on a lot of different social media like Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter. Most of my handles are Milica Jelenic, except for on Instagram, I'm Magical Milica, or you can find the Pleasure Zone as well on Instagram and Facebook. So yeah, feel free. You can also find me on my website, milicajelenic.com, and that's my name, MilicaJelenic.com. So one of the things about the threesomes and how do we include ourselves in a threesome, and I think I had a really interesting conversation today with a woman named Julie Perkins. I created this telecall series that I invited a whole bunch of parents to, and we're talking about parenting the next generation. And one thing that she reminded me of is the gift of being aggressively present. And that for me has been a question, like, what is aggressively present? When we were done discussing it, we actually had a little talk afterwards, and it's like there's this simplicity in it, and aggressive presence for me is this. It's such a potent energy that it seems like it should be so complicated, and yet it can be so simple. It's like literally willing to, instead of like backing out of things where we create exclusion, it's literally stepping in and saying, hi, How are you? I'm here. And I know I've had that. I've had that in my life. I think one of the very first times that somebody was like really aggressively present with me, and I was aware of it, was Dr. Dane here. Was aggressively present with me at a class one time, and I think he just looked at me and I just started crying. It was such a foreign thing in my world to have somebody be present with me and not require anything from me, which is very different than being present with somebody and then there's like, hi, I'm here and blah, 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 which is totally cool. Like, there's not a wrongness in that. It's just like, what is it like to be aggressively present in somebody's world and just be like, hi, hi, hi. And you're just there. You're just present and with them. And I really am so grateful to Julie Perkins for that reminder that it is just that simple, right? So how to include yourself in a threesome? How about if we start with being aggressively present with ourselves? You know, you can look in the mirror and go, hi, cool. And when you are aggressively present with yourself, you can become aware. You are more aware, and then you can choose from a place of awareness. Does this work for me? So now you've got two bodies that you're playing with, two or more. So when you are, having copulation or playing, and you've got two or more bodies involved, and there's either oral sex, anal sex, vaginal penetration, any kind of like anything that could actually initiate an STD, please ask some questions of your body, like truth. If I engage with blah, 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 will I get an STD? Truth if I engage with blah, 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 or truth if I have copulate, have oral sex with, have this, have that. Ask some questions. Ask a lot of questions because you're adding more bodies, and the more bodies, there's more bacteria. I'm just getting like real on you guys, just totally pragmatic here. So you got more bodies, you got more bacteria, you got more funguses, viruses, parasites, you got more stuff going on the more bodies you add. So it's like if you have 2 ingredients in a salad, that's one salad. Now you got 3 ingredients. It's a whole new salad with a whole new flavor. So please ask questions about this new recipe called threesome because you're going to have a lot more things involved that can affect your body. So when your body is like a yes to all of it, using the truth tool, if I choose this, blank, what will it create? If I choose to copulate, to have oral sex with, to this, to that, you could be with somebody that maybe they have warts on their fingers and you didn't ask that question. All of a sudden you get warts on your genitals, but you're not really familiar with them because they just got tossed into your threesome and you're figuring, oh, okay, cool. Well, I got, whatever, you're with somebody, so you figure that everybody's all good, right? So definitely use your tools and follow the energy because you're aware, your body's aware. And so all those questions that you've asked before, that you've listened to before on the show, and if you haven't listened to this show before, there's a lot of questions you can ask, like, will this be easy? Because sometimes the thought of the threesome sounds like a really fun idea, but A, will it be easy? And if it's like overly complicated, already, number one is like if you don't get all 5, I'm just saying, there's like 5 questions here. If you don't get all 5, walk away. It's really simple, walk away. No, thank you. Thank you for the option, and the universe is not conspiring to have this show up right now. So will this be easy? Number one, will this be fun for everybody involved? Will this be fun for me? Will this be fun for them? It is a special tool. Walk away. And so will this be easy? Will this be fun? And instead of will I learn something, which is something that I've been, which I've heard in classes before, but it's like I'll actually start to ask things like, if I choose this, will it increase my money inflows? And it doesn't mean that the people are going to slap you cash for having sex with them, but you never know. But will it increase your money inflows? Because your body receives money. And if it is going to affect your money inflows in any way, maybe perhaps, body injuries that don't allow you to work or whatever. So if it's going to increase your money inflows, awesome, choose it. And then And then also asking if they will be grateful, like if both parties involved will be grateful. There's nothing more miserably unfun than copulating with somebody who is totally ungrateful after the fact, and you're just like, what a bummer. Will they be grateful? Both of them. Like if you're having threesomes, it's not just the one person, it's both people. Will they be both grateful? You can choose A or B or whatever. You can ask for both. And sometimes it might be one will be and one won't be. Walk away. If they're not both grateful, walk away. You got to get all 5 with both people on these as a yes or walk away. Okay? So, and will it be fun? Like, will it be grateful? And will you be happy? Will it be fun and will you be happy? You know, those like, will you be happy after? Because sometimes after the copulation, sometimes your body will enjoy the copulation, and then after it goes into total sadness, loss. It might feel like you're now healing those other bodies, and they had a lot of sadness in them. So now you're like walking around and feeling like depressed or whatever, and you might not have all the tools to ask questions like, is this mine? You know, so if you're healing the bodies after copulating with them, you might not be like, woohoo, and party on. So ask about both those bodies. Will you be happy? Will you be happy copulating with A or B after? And again, if they're not both spot on as a yes, walk away. I'm saying this because I get that a lot of this, menage a trois and orgies, like a lot of it's unconscious. A lot of it is just like, oh, my body's turned on, I'm taking some drugs, it feels good. Now, if we're operating from consciousness, we may still choose threesomes, we may still choose orgies. It is that if we are and everybody involved is conscious, how much more fun would that be? How much fun would it be to have an orgy with like a whole bunch of sexual healers? Calling all my sexual healer friends out there. Okay. Whoever would like to have that and create that for fun in the future, let me know. Okay, cool. So what contribution could that be to bodies when you have everybody who has a capacity that's willing to contribute to bodies? Contributing to bodies instead of unconsciousness, it's creating, more spread of STDs, sadness, depression, whatever it's creating a pile of muck and sadness and comparison and competitiveness. Although I did read quite a few beautiful articles from a few people about more of a sense of a conscious orgies, where it was really about even being a voyeur is an invitation for enjoying the bodies. It's like there are people out there that are creating these opportunities. I would call them opportunities more than possibilities because they're short-lived, but in my point of view. And there is this like sense that there are people creating these things that are coming from a little bit more awareness and a little more consciousness. And what would it take to have even more awareness and consciousness with these things? So where can you include you? How about starting with aggressive presence and hi, and asking all those questions. So hi, how's it going, bodies? And, if you can be in the presence of the person, even, I challenge you this, is to be in the presence of the people that you're choosing to have a threesome with and be naked with them for 5 minutes. And if you can be completely naked, aggressively present, and have no judgment of your body or their judgments of your body or their own bodies, and you can have 3 people being aggressively present for like 5 minutes with no judgment, holy mother of Jesus, what an experience would that be? That excites me that would be a possibility. It excites me that people could be willing to be that present with each other with no judgment, receiving from bodies without the copulation, without the having to jump in on it like it's something to prove, and then being really kind and asking questions of the bodies, like, hey bodies, what contribution can I be to you? What contribution can I be to you? And asking, like, 3 conscious people having a threesome. Like, wow, that sounds like so much fun. So much more fun than 3 unconscious people having a threesome where there's all this stuff coming up, and jealousy and rage and anger and fear and shame and separation and blah, blah, blah. Like, you could go to, oh my God, that's painfulville, or you could go to, wow, what a contribution would that be to my life, my living, my money inflows, and the future of the planet, because how much could that actually include the whole planet, and that it would actually create change for the planet with creating that kind of inclusion. So what a fun choice that could be. So let's talk more about these amazing possibilities for threesomes when we come back from these commercial breaks.
Many of us have created a lot of limitations around sex and what we are willing to choose. What else is possible beyond what we have already seen, heard, or thought of? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual revolution, taking the taboo out of all aspects of sex, sexuality, and copulation by tuning in to the Pleasure Zone radio show with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. You'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Hey everybody, this is Dr. Dane here, and I would like to invite you to an adventure in being. I've just written and finished a new book known as Being You, Changing the World. Are you one of those dreamers? One of those people who's always known that other possibilities should be available but haven't yet been able to see them be created? Well, I wrote this book for you. In it, you'll find tools, processes, and unique perspectives to change the things you've always wanted to change but didn't know how. In it, you'll find an invitation to a different possibility for a way that we can be in this world that changes not only our lives, but by being us, allows us to contribute to changing everything planet-wide that doesn't work. Are you aware that truly great people, truly being them, is the only thing that has ever created a great change on this planet? Are you willing to step up? Are you willing to be one? Check out a copy of my new book, Being You, Changing the World. I invite you to go to beingyoubook.com for a free gift.
This is the Pleasure Zone with body whisperer Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. Call 815-880-8255. That's TALK. Or Canada 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email at milicajelenic.com. Now back to the program.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Pleasure Zone. I'm your host, Milica Jelenic, and tonight's topic has been, is Three's company or a crowd? And I get that it can be a crowd. I get that it can be an very exclusive experience where you feel excluded, where you feel left out, you feel alone, you feel kind of crabby, you feel like not so happy after. And I also get that there is a way to be with more than one body that can be such an incredible invitation to create more communion on the planet. Now, does that require copulation? No, it actually doesn't. And the only reason I mention that, being naked with the people first is because we do have so much judgment around that. We have so many distractor implants that come up. And what are distractor implants? Those are things that actually distract us from being who we truly be. And they include things like jealousy, fear, anger, rage, death, money. Like there's 20 of them. So there are many, many things that will actually distract us from being. And if we're truly choosing to be, and we can be aggressively present with the people that we're naked with, naked, not just physically, but naked in the sense that we're truly choosing to be vulnerable, show up as ourselves fully and completely. I get that, clothes on or off, just even just choosing that with more than one person can be such a gift, such an amazing contribution. And so very few people on the planet are choosing that. And I'm speaking for myself. Like, there are times when I choose it, but I don't choose it every day. I don't choose it 24 hours a day. I'm consciously looking at where I'm not choosing it and where I could be choosing it. So in that sense, it's different. But I do know that I could definitely be choosing more vulnerability. I could be choosing to be that with more people simultaneously. As much as I'm doing this radio show, it's not like I'm looking at you guys. And for me, there is this sort of safety around radio where you don't have to see my face. So unless you've seen me on social media, you don't even know what I look like. So there is, you can judge my voice, but other than that, you can judge my information. And somehow that's a lot easier to take than having my face be judged or my body be judged, or even being around people who are in constant judgment of their own bodies, and I'm picking that up. And for me, it's like now I've actually over the last few years become a lot more, having a lot more joy of embodiment. So that whole thing around maybe the jealousy is less than it was, though I'm still aware that having a threesome with my husband, there would still be something that comes up that wouldn't necessarily be the greatest contribution to our future right now. So please, when you are playing with that, please look at that. So there are so many things to look at in terms of, and to question in terms of, what is it going to create for your future? Is this actually a contribution to the relationship if you're in one, and if you're not in one, to be willing to be with the people, just to be really present with them before choosing to copulate with them in any way. And then there is the whole logistics thing of it. Like, logistically, you got 3 bodies, you got a bunch of orifices, and you got some body parts going on. You may have 1 or 2 penises or 3 penises involved. You might have 3 vaginas involved. Like, there's so many variations of threesomes. And then logistically, the bodies, where do they go? How do they fit together? Like puzzle pieces. What kind of setting are you in? Like, are you in a space that's conducive to more than one person? Like, if you're trying to have a threesome on a single bed, it may be more difficult than, say, on a king-size bed, or an entire room that's a giant bed, or, like a love den. I always thought it'd be really fun to have like a giant bed that goes across my whole room, and just like roll around and like have sex all over the place. But I haven't bought that bed yet, so we'll see if I create that in the future. Might be like inlay in the floor, maybe with like springboard or something. Like, there's a few fun ideas I have around how I could have a giant bed in my room. And so if you are choosing to have these, like, think logistics too. Like, there's a few things to consider: beds, comfort, bodies, and where the body's going, and are all parties involved interested in having oral sex with each other? They might not be. Do all parties desire copulation or watching each other copulate? So have conversations with the people that you're choosing to have a threesome with, because having the communication in advance can definitely alleviate some of the awkwardness and the grief, and it can also create a lot more sense of inclusion rather than exclusion. So that's, again, how else do you include yourself in a threesome that may be kind of awkward at first? You might be like, okay, well, she's getting penetrated and here I am off to the side picking my nose. Well, that's not attractive. Maybe I'll pick something else. Well, they're not paying attention, so what's the point? Like, you might just be like feeling a little like left out. So where can you include yourself? And again, asking the bodies if they would like to receive from you too. So you can ask out loud, you can ask the bodies silently, energetically, and definitely have conversation with the people that you are choosing this with and choosing to be aggressively present through the whole thing. I really wonder what that will create in those scenarios. So I want to thank all of you for listening, and please join me next week when we're going to have another show about numbers. It's going to be about 69s, because 69 is my favorite number next week.
Thank you for choosing to listen to The Pleasure Zone. Milica Jelenic will return next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body.